He tried to run away from God and his calling, but fate had other plans for him. Hey guys, welcome to today's amazing movie, one that will keep you at the edge of your seat. But before we dive in, don't rush off yet. Grab a snack to keep you focused, and don't forget to click the subscribe button for more amazing movies from us. This story begins with a man named John who came to the office looking quite disturbed. His colleague, Emeka, asked how he was doing. Shortly after, a lady dropped some information about a client, but another coworker named Faith began to compete for the same client. However, Faith would later be replaced, or so they said after she left. Hours later, John was called into the boss's office. The boss informed them that they would be working together on an important company project. They both wanted to handle it individually, but the boss refused and insisted they work as a team. John later told Emeka how overconfident Faith was. But having already noticed a loophole, John took things personally and became determined to get Faith kicked out of the company as time went by. One day, John helped his cousin's friend Becky with something she was struggling with. To appreciate his help, he invited her to join him in watching a movie. The next day at the office, John and Faith couldn't seem to agree on anything. Left with no other choice, John allowed her to create a workflow for both of them. That evening, Faith and her boyfriend Pascal were trying to settle their differences. When Faith asked him for her money, he told her she would get it soon, but accused her of hurting him before storming off. That same evening, while John and Becky were watching a movie, Becky tried to seduce John. But since that wasn't the reason he invited her, he refused. Angry, she left his house immediately. The next day at the office, John and Faith were addressed in front of the company. Everyone was counting on them to deliver. They both suggested a strategy, which the boss agreed to. But soon after, John and Faith began arguing again until the boss called them to order. Later that evening at Faith's place, things didn't go smoothly either. Faith was unfriendly, and they couldn't seem to work peacefully. After working for some time, John wanted to leave with her system so she wouldn't try to take full credit for their work. She refused, and he decided to stay over. At midnight, Faith tried to access her laptop secretly, but to her surprise, John was still awake. They both ended up staying awake until dawn. The next morning, John told his colleague about the project he was working on with Faith and his secret plan to bring her down. He also promised to send a file to his friend about a transaction Faith once handled for a customer who was duped. John thought his true calling was to be successful, not to be in Faith. The next day at John's place, after serving Faith some food, she complimented his cooking, but went too far, questioning why he had left the ministry as a pastor. She later apologized, admitting she didn't like pastors in general. They exchanged a few words as time went by. After working together for a while, they decided to go to bed. John locked her in the room, but unfortunately, her laptop couldn't be unlocked without her face. John felt uneasy about it. That night, both of them secretly monitored each other's movements. The next day at work, the boss was excited about the progress they had made. He didn't care who did most of the work. He was simply happy to see results. That night, while John and Faith were working, Faith's boyfriend Pascal came to visit. He was shocked to see John there. John started teasing Pascal and Faith playfully, but Faith quickly begged him to stop, explaining that they were only working together. Faith later pleaded with Pascal to understand that it was just work and nothing more. She made him realize that her career was on the line if she let John handle the project alone. That night, neither Faith, Pascal, nor John enjoyed the evening as expected. Next morning, Pascal came to the dining area and started eating John's breakfast without realizing it. While they were exchanging words, Faith stormed in angrily and confronted Pascal, accusing him of being stingy even though he had enough money to pay her back what he owed. Out of anger, Pascal sent her the money immediately. But after receiving it, Faith chased him out of her house for cheating on her with other women. John comforted Faith and spoke kindly about what he knew of her. But Faith interrupted, saying he actually didn't know anything about her. Then she asked him what had happened to him, because back when he was a pastor, he used to be calm and gentle. John looked at her and said, "You're the reason I changed." They ended up having a deep and inspiring conversation. Surprisingly, they laughed and had fun together, something neither of them expected. Moments later, a delivery man arrived with a package. But to John's surprise, the delivery guy recognized him instantly and excitedly exclaimed how much he had missed his pastor. After collecting his money, the man left happily. John became uneasy, worried that the man might return with church members for a choir meeting, which could expose him. He begged Faith to let them continue the project at his place instead, explaining that he was in hiding and trying to stay low. Faith agreed. At John's house, he opened up to her about how his church had been declining gradually. He explained that when he went to his spiritual leaders for help, he discovered they were more interested in numbers and money than in God's presence. Feeling lost, he tried to hear from God, but got nothing. Faith, in turn, shared her own story, how she used to be a devoted church member until her best friend died. When she sought help, the pastor demanded money to break a curse, and that made her lose faith in pastors entirely. John told her to stop dwelling on the past and focus on their work instead. One day at the office, Faith and John were caught by their boss laughing and playing around. Surprisingly, he didn't mind, as long as they continued producing results. Later that day, Emeka reminded John about the file he had prepared to send to the head office to get Faith fired. But John told him to delete it. He said he had come to know Faith better and spoke positively about her. Emeka smiled as they continued chatting. Days passed, and John and Faith began to truly enjoy each other's company. They became good friends. One evening, they trusted each other enough to switch laptops and review each other's work so they could continue from where the other stopped. Wow, this is getting interesting, but let's see where this is heading. Sometime later, while shopping, John hid himself to avoid being seen by one of his old church members. But when it was time to pay for his items, he found out that the same member had already paid for him. John was frustrated but couldn't do anything about it. It was what it was. Another day, while John and Faith were working, Faith went to open the door and found John's aunt standing there unexpectedly. She hadn't called or texted before coming. John and Faith welcomed her, though the aunt gave Faith a suspicious look. Days later, while John's aunt was studying the Bible, Faith greeted her, but she ignored her. Being very religious, the aunt began praying loudly, which made Faith act like she was possessed, but only to mock her. John witnessed it and laughed awkwardly. Hours later, before leaving, the aunt apologized to John for the way she had treated Faith, admitting it wasn't right. She expressed concern about why John had left ministry and encouraged him to return someday. Then she left. One day, John was walking down the street when he saw a crippled man preaching the gospel. John stopped and began to challenge him, asking how he could believe in a God who allowed him to remain crippled. But the man, firm in his faith, spoke passionately about God's will and purpose being greater than physical conditions. Still, John disagreed and walked away. Later, Faith came to visit John. During their conversation, they both finally expressed how much they wanted each other. The feeling was mutual, and they cherished the moment together. Right at the office, Faith and John presented the results of their project to their boss, who was highly impressed and complimented them for a job well done. Weeks later, a young man who once knew Pastor John ran into him by chance. Overjoyed, he told John how much he had missed him, recalling how John once supported him financially through school. Being an orphan, he asked John for help again. But John, now hardened by life, thought the young man was only trying to use him for money. He refused to help and walked away. Some days later at work, Faith and John attended a meeting with their boss. During the meeting, Faith was unexpectedly suspended for covering up an issue without reporting it to the company. She left the office heartbroken. John, suspicious about what happened, asked his colleague Emeka if he had sent the deleted files he once mentioned. To John's shock, Emeka confessed that he had mistakenly sent the very file John had asked him to delete. He apologized deeply, but the damage was already done. Another day, while John was searching for his flash drive at home, he panicked and almost called the police to accuse Faith, until he found it lying on the floor, having fallen from his pocket. He was speechless. Feeling guilty, John went to see Faith to comfort her. During their talk, Faith explained how she had used her own personal money to cover up for a client, only for that same client to turn against her. John felt terrible and finally confessed that he had been the one responsible for her suspension. He told her that although he had asked Emeka to delete the file when he realized she was a good person, Emeka mistakenly sent it. Faith was deeply hurt and felt betrayed. In tears, she asked him to leave her house. That night, John couldn't eat. The weight of guilt was too heavy on him. Some days later, while John was taking a walk, a woman he had once ministered to years back ran up to him. She joyfully shared her testimony, telling him how his encouragement had restored her hope when she was about to give up. She said she named her son John in honor of him and continued to pray for him. Her words touched him deeply. Another day, John met the same young man he had refused to help earlier. This time, he apologized sincerely for being insensitive. The young man forgave him, telling him that his boss had already helped pay his school fees. He thanked John for his past kindness and promised to keep praying for him. From that day on, John had no choice but to pick up the Bible he had been running away from for so long. Back at the office, Emeka also came to John to ask for forgiveness, and John forgave him. But he also took full responsibility for everything that had happened. When his boss later called to inform him about a promotion, John turned it down and decided to resign, admitting that he was the cause of what had happened to Faith. Later that day, John went to see Faith again. He apologized sincerely and told her that he had resigned from the office. He also informed her that the management had agreed to take her back as part of his resignation condition. At first, Faith refused to forgive him, but later agreed, on one condition, that John would pray with her. She told him she had recently watched a video online that reminded her that God never leaves us, even when we leave him. Her words softened John's heart. He finally accepted his true calling as a pastor once more and prayed with her. From that day onward, John and Faith began a new life together, building a family grounded in love, faith, and the Word of God. They read the Bible daily and continued to hold firmly to their belief in God. Soon, members of the church began to visit again, coming for prayers, blessings, and to fellowship with Pastor John, whose life had finally come full circle. No matter how far a person runs from their calling or from God, life has a way of leading them back to their purpose. Mistakes, betrayals, and guilt may break us for a while, but grace can rebuild what was lost. Forgiveness heals, and true peace is found only when we stop running and return to where we truly belong, in God's will. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and comment your thoughts in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe for more fascinating movies from us. Till we meet again, bye.